From the post-millennial, 80,000 pages of files on JFK's assassination. Trump said those looking at the files have a lot of reading to do. Indeed, they do. We have a couple of these documents pulled up. Around 80,000 pages of files having to do with the assassination of JFK have been released by the Trump administration, as President Trump said he would do so on Monday. So thank you, Mr. President. When he announced the release on Monday, he said that those looking at the files have a lot of reading. As he visited the JFK Center, there were 1,123 new entries for the files of the National Archives, with many entries having multiple pages. Now, the Daily Mail has already done a quick assessment. This is fascinating. Some news outlets, within the span of a half an hour, I'm assuming they get 100 people in their newsroom and they say, you take page 1, you take page 2, you take page 3, and they all go through it and then say, tell me what you find. So we already have a general idea. 1, nothing incriminating. You're not going to find any grassy knoll stuff, so the rumors say. I mean, we're still going to wait for a deeper assessment of this. The Daily Mail says JFK assassination files 15 huge bombshells, including secret Jackie letter and missing conspiracy footage. Interesting. Jackie's letters to LBJ. You've got Miami CIA files, Cuban assassins records, New Orleans paramilitary agents. I got one document that I think I actually still have pulled up. And this is like, look, we went as fast as we can. And I'm not a historian of the JFK assassination. But this is a document pulled up from the JFK files making reference that Cuban diplomatic missions abroad started to go on high alert in fears. Now, you got to understand, Cuba, communist, Cold War. Assassination of JFK, and there were some serious fears. But I'm wondering if the journalists in the room, if you guys have heard anything, if your newsrooms have pulled anything. I know there were some rumors that you were mentioning or some things people might have seen.
Yeah, nothing major yet. We ran the files through Grok, which is the AI tool at X, and this is how it summed it up, which is that the files provide a lot more detail on Oswald's movements before the assassination attempt, particularly a trip he took to Mexico City 6 weeks before the assassination, where he met with Soviet and Cuban leaders at their embassies. But otherwise, it says no major conspiracy breakthrough. If you're looking for that bombshell moment, you're probably not going to find it in these documents. Austin Peterson has a tweet out looking through the files that says, so far, what I'm reading is it appears if they had been withheld in part due to the discussion of national security secrets here. And as you kind of go through and click on random pages, you'll see a lot about fighting communism in Cuba and the Soviet Union. And so a lot of it is actually related to foreign policy of JFK's administration rather than specifically the assassination.
Yeah, I don't imagine that this is going to satisfy the people that are, you know, the second shooter people or the conspiracy people that think that it was CIA that did the assassination or whatever. This clearly, if I understand correctly so far, obviously I haven't had time to go through it myself, but it doesn't have the things that people were hoping to have.
Maybe.
Well, I mean, everybody was really hoping that there would be a document and they would download the document and it would say there were 2 shooters and the CIA did it.
Or maybe we have
Everybody
this
wanted
document
that.
right now from the archives. Ladies and gentlemen, in one of the documents I have, there is a sentence saying that the CIA was responsible. Now, hold on. Let me read it for you. This is document number 104-10170-10145. You can find it in the archives. It's just, I'm going to read it. I don't know what it is because this stuff just came out. Memorandum, subject, Ramparts, John Garrett Underhill Jr., Samuel George Cummings, and Interarmco. 1. Ramparts of June 1967, Volume 5, Number 12, pages 28 to 29, contains the following passage about subjects. Quote, the day after the assassination, Gary Underhill left Washington in a hurry. Late in the evening, he showed up at the home of friends in New Jersey who was very agitated. A small clique within the CIA was responsible for the assassination, he confided. And he was afraid for his life and probably would have to leave the country. Less than 6 months later, Underhill was found shot to death in his Washington apartment. The coroner ruled it a suicide. J. Garrett Underhill had been an intelligence agent during World War II and was a recognized authority on limited warfare and small arms. A researcher and writer on military affairs, he was on a first-name basis with many of the top brass in the Pentagon. He was also on intimate terms with a number of high-ranking CIA officials. He was one of the agency's people who performed special assignments. At one time, he had been a friend of Samuel Cummings of Interarmco, the arms broker that numbers among its customers the CIA and, ironically, Klein Sporting Goods of Chicago. Okay, from whence the mail order Carcano allegedly was purchased by Oswald. The friends whom Underhill visited say he was sober but badly shook. They say he attributed the Kennedy murder to a CIA clique which was carrying on a lucrative racket in gun running, narcotics, and other contraband, and manipulating political intrigue to serve its own ends. Kennedy supposedly got wind that something was going on and was killed before he could blow the whistle on it. Although the friends had always known Underhill to be perfectly rational and objective, they at first didn't take his account seriously. I think the main reason was, explains the husband, that we couldn't believe the CIA could contain a corrupt element every bit as ruthless and more efficient as the mafia. The verdict of suicide in Underhill's death is by no means convincing. His body was found by a writing collaborator, Asher Burns, to the New Republic. He had been shot behind the left ear, and an automatic pistol was under his left side. Odd, says Brines, because Underhill was right-handed. Brines thinks the pistol was fitted with a silencer, and occupants of the apartment building could not recall hearing a shot. Underhill obviously had been dead several days. Gary Underhill's chilling story is hardly implausible. As a spy apparatus, the CIA is honeycombed with self-contained cliques operating without any real central control. A check of agency records has yielded the following information about John Garrett Underhill. Now, there is more. He's a date of birth 7 August 1915. This is, I'm not entirely sure what this document is. Again, this just could be someone, I don't know, pulling an excerpt from a fictional story. Who knows? Until we can actually break this down and figure out why this document is in the JFK files, I want to stress this. I want you guys to, here, watch. We'll pull it up. Grab this. Here's archive.gov from National Archives. Here's the file. I'm clicking it right now. And this is the file in question that we just read, where they tell the story of a man who apparently, I'm assuming he's a real guy, unless the archives include a fictional tale of intrigue. What do you guys think?
They put it in there just to satisfy the people that are desiring of, this is the actual conspiracy. That never happened. This is just a paper they slid in there so that way they can calm all the people that are like, there's got to be a second shooter, there's got to be something. It's to chill those people
I just looked it up. I mean, I have a picture of his gravestone, a picture of him as a young man, a picture of his death
all fabricated.
certificate. Yes, all of it.
All of it's made up.
Going way back. He was a writer and researcher in the area of military affairs, who is alleged to have had high-level Pentagon connections.
Never existed. Never happened.
Yeah, there's a lot of stories about him going back for a long way.
Sounds Clinton-esque.
A little bit, yeah, a little bit. Or that crazy case in Pennsylvania where the woman stabbed herself 23 times and it was ruled a suicide.
That's right.
Yeah, that's wild.
Well, again,
this is interesting. Let me pull this up. A simple Google search of the individual. Now, I want to stress, guys, that the records just dropped, so we here haven't had a chance to go through anything. For all I know, there's some dude out there watching being like, dude, that was a fictional story that, you know, I don't know why it would be in the... But John Garrett Underhill Jr. has a Wikipedia entry, and it says he was an Army captain general during World War II, blah, blah, blah. He's a Harvard graduate. He was... a military correspondent for Life magazine and helped make their foreign news department one of the most knowledgeable centers of military intelligence in the world. So he died, John Garrett Underhill. That's the name they said, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, it says he died in 1964. So I'm not. Or this is his son, I'm imagining, right? No, John Garrett Underhill Jr. So it says Ramparts of June 1967. I wonder what year they're claiming that. I don't know. I have to look into it, obviously. They go on to mention that Jim Garrison, district attorney for Louisiana, conducted an investigation into the assassination of Kennedy. In an interview that Garrison gave to Playboy magazine, he referred to a CIA agent with valuable information pertaining to his investigation. The name of Gary Underhill was used interchangeably in sources with John Garrett Underhill. A memorandum from the CIA to the Justice Department in 1967 referred to the interview and John Garrett Underhill in some detail. I'm wondering, was this document previously disclosed? Is this just relating to a guy who had claimed this earlier on? No idea.
I don't know.
No idea.
I'll just tell you this. This is in there.
Well, if you look at it, there's
the Kennedy
112
documents.
pages of PDF files of like 10 PDFs per page. So it's thousands of documents here. And then each one, I mean, any document you open, it could be, 20 pages. Here's one, this is 18 pages. Here's one that's 16 pages, 21 pages. So it's a lot of pages to read through. And what's interesting to me is this is basically what everybody asked for, the release of these files. But I think that people forget that when you ask for the release of files, just total transparency, there's absolutely no context. There's no timeline. There's no order that you should read the files in. Some of them are like memo cover sheets without the, accompanying documentation that was referenced in the memo. So it really takes a lot of, you almost want to print it all out and put it in a big pile and get someone to collate it in some kind of order so that you could look through it and assign context that you know about from the time period, like this happened then, this happened then. But just in a big dump like this is like multiple different people's files. Everyone's doing different areas of research, and there was no through line given. We just know some facts, and now there's all of this information, and you don't know how to assign the information to the existing story. It makes it a lot more difficult to understand even what you have in your hands.
You also don't know if it really is all of the files, because when we got the 2017 dump, there were about 3,000 records at the time. And then in February, just a month ago, they found an additional 2,400 that had been basically misclassified, and they were unrecognized as pertaining to the JFK assassination. So I don't think it's unreasonable to think that there could be other files floating around that are classified the wrong way and therefore not contained in this massive dump.
Well, that's like with the Epstein files, right? So
Exactly.
They thought they had a whole bunch of files, and then it turns out that there's boxes more files that are unmarked, unclassified. I mean, for whatever reason, Tim.
I'm just saying, are we going to get any of that?
I don't think we're ever going to get the
don't think
Epstein
so.
stuff.
I don't think it exists.
Yeah, I think that it's too analog, too old, too
not-
destroyed.
Epstein stuff?
Yeah.
No, I think the Epstein stuff is likely a powerful, wealthy guy said, for the love of all that is holy, I will pay you any amount of money to destroy that so I don't go to prison.
We already learned that government agencies destroy documents all the time on purpose.
Indeed.
Yeah, like with knowledge. It's document destroying day, everyone. Get the burn bags.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, they were talking about burn bags just the other day.
Yeah.
I mean, I assume that the references to the burn bags the other day have nothing to do with either Epstein or with.
No, I think it's just standard procedure.
Yeah, I think that the government likes to have as little accountability as possible, and I think that people can pish posh that or whatever that, but it's clear the government likes to classify things to avoid accountability. They overclassify things. This is something you hear over and over when it comes to people that either were in Congress or people that were in the bureaucracy. It's normal for the government to overclassify things because that prevents them from being on the hook for having to answer things. So whether if things are classified or whether they're burning them to destroy things or whatever, the less accountability the government has, the better they like it.
Yeah, plus, I mean, you don't want to end up on a edition of Hoarders, government hoarders. You ever see Hoarders?
Yes, but
I'm just making a joke.
Nowadays there's not really
landing.
the possibility of that anymore because it's all digital now.
Well, you can still be a digital hoarder. Do you remember this conversation about climate change? There was a conversation a couple of years ago. It was like, to prevent climate change, clear your digital files. You're not entitled to that much hard drive space, that much cloud space. You have to clear
Really? No,
clear
I
your
didn't.
files for climate change.
For climate change. No,
Yeah.
I was unaware of that, but
Instead of just ramping up your
good grief.
Dropbox account,
grief.
or whatever it is.
Yeah, I've never heard of digital hoarding. I mean, I
digital
do.
hoarding, that's a
I know
thing.
people that I know dudes that are in the music industry that have the hard drives of everything that they've ever produced or everything they've ever worked on. They they don't ever get rid of things and stuff. But I think that when it comes to the federal government, it should be normal for them to keep documents and they should be accessible with a FOIA request or whatever, because the federal government should be, and I understand that this is a little pie in the sky probably, but they should be accountable to the American people. And if there's a FOIA request and and the American people want to see information, they should have access to it. They're spending our money. They're supposed to be serving us. The things that they do are supposed to be in service for the American people and to better our position globally. And so, unless it's something that is actually classified for good reason, then it should be something that the American people could see.
Well,
There's a lot of Cuba stuff in here.
Yeah, a lot of Cuba stuff, a lot of Soviet Union stuff. And the last time I was here, we were talking about the Epstein files. It was the day that the influencers got the infamous binders. And then they had that 8 a.m. deadline the next morning where Pam Bondi was demanding the documents from the FBI field office in New York and the Southern District of New York. Now she claims she has a quote-unquote truckload of documents, but it's been 2 weeks since that deadline passed, and we haven't heard any update about when they're actually supposed to be released, if at all.
I think that the desire for this administration to provide an answer to the people that voted hoping for information about these things, I think that they're being in a hurry to answer them and have something for them has put them in bad positions, because maybe the information that people are expecting doesn't actually exist. Maybe the government isn't going to be able to produce it for them. So they've been out over their skis multiple times about this.
You never want to overpromise and underdeliver.
Yeah, and that's something that has happened multiple times, and now there's a lot of people that are going like, "Oh, Trump tricked you again. Trump tricked you again," and it's like, maybe the stuff wasn't. Maybe he shouldn't have said what he said, and maybe the information just isn't there. Like we were talking about the Epstein stuff. I think that it's likely gone. It probably was gone a long time ago.
People are saying sham Bondi and scam Bondi.
Yeah, and I mean, look, they probably have a point. They shouldn't have made, like you said, they should not have made promises that they couldn't deliver on.
And she shouldn't have marched into that room with the influencers and dropped off the binder without consulting with the rest of the administration. I mean, there were a lot of reports, and I don't usually put much stock into mainstream media reports about palace intrigue type stories, but this is consistent with what I've heard, which is that people were not happy within the administration about how the attorney general handled that situation, and they felt like it made them look like idiots.
Well, in both of these cases, what should have happened is there should have been a release of the files concurrent with a press conference, where the administration detailed what they discovered in the files. So, for example, with the JFK thing, Pam Bondi should have had a press conference. Anna Paulina Luna should have been there. She's been all over this, and they should have said, in our looking through these files, these are a few things that we found that people might think is interesting. We did not find any backup for these conspiracy theories or whatever else, but they should have taken the time to go through them themselves. And the same thing should have happened with the Epstein files. Instead of giving the folders to a bunch of people who, I don't know if you saw, Mike Cernovich did a whole video on it that I watched because I was like, what did happen, And instead of just giving binders to people who didn't have their phones and weren't about to go on air and discuss it, should have been a press conference. Like, this is what we have. This is what's going on. Instead, with the Epstein stuff, they increased the mystery and increased the level of distrust. And there was absolutely no reason to do that. And they threw those influencers and journalists and stuff, they just threw them under the bus. They all ended up taking the heat for something that was not their fault at all.
Yeah, I think that
and there was nothing in the binders for them to really discuss once they even got on air.
The idea of a press conference probably is actually a good idea. Like if they had someone go out and say, "Look, here's a bullet points that are going to be people are going to be interested in." It's not hard to figure out the things that people are, the questions that are going to be asked. But they should have been able to answer questions and talk about it, and it probably would have diffused a lot of the criticism that they've taken so far.
Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.